Well, hey there, it's Jenny with the Wallet Group, Keller Williams Realty, and thanks for hanging out with us on this awesome edition of Agent Success Secrets. Today, I'm going to dive into all the secrets of this successful agent named Ginger Peters. Ginger, you are not just an agent anymore. You have grown in your leadership and definitely in being a mama and a wife and all
Yeah,
the things that so many of us get to experience, but you're doing it at such a high level. So will you just share with everyone who you are and what you do?
sure. So thank you for having me. Nice to meet you guys. I am Ginger Peters. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina, so the Triangle. So I have been with Keller Williams for 14 years, the only company I've been with. So I started Ginger and Company, our team in 2014. So we'll be celebrating 11 years this year. I would say business really took off for myself. I was named 30 under 30, which now was a while ago, but 30 under 30, and business started to grow from there, grew a really strong agent referral group. I have grown the team to 200 transactions, and it's all fallen apart, and I've started over. And so I've definitely failed my way forward, and recently have moved into the OP position of our market center. Let's see. I also have a property management company that we have about 200 properties under management. So, and I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old.
And they are so dang cute. And I love watching them grow up on Facebook, which is definitely what my daughter has heard her whole life is people feel like they know her from the socials. I'm sure you get that a lot. But
Yeah.
is there really anything better than being a mom and being a business woman who gets to do both?
Yeah. And gets to run your own schedule. So you know, my husband recently started the stay-at-home dad role. So we have even more flexibility. So it's been wonderful. And that's all come from everything that Keller Williams has given me.
So let's go back in time. Some people don't know you like as long as I have known you. So back in time of 23-year-old Ginger getting into real
Mhm.
estate and having early success, what was the secret?
So I got into real estate right out of college. So this is, I would say, the only adult job I've ever had. And I believe that consistency will always win. You can be the smartest in the room, you can be the prettiest in the room, you can be whatever, but the consistency will beat out everyone else. And I believe that's what I had in place early on. So I lived an hour from our market center. I lived in a totally different market, and I would drive to the office and be there at 8:30 until 5:30 every day. And then, if I had showings on the weekends, I would drive back. So the consistency of that routine of showing up at the office, even if I had no clients, didn't, I was there. I worked, I did my lead gen, I put systems into place so that when I did have those clients that I was prepared. So I think it was the consistency of just showing up.
Well, consistency is the key, but how did you know at such a young age, right out of college, new into this industry? How did you know that that was the key to success? I mean, you had some drive. Like, where did that come from?
So looking back on it, my dad was an entrepreneur. He owned a pool company. And so I would just see him, waking up, going to the pool company every day. And some days there would be pools put in and some days there weren't. So it was just, I was always born with you show up,
Yeah.
you show up ready to go, and you play all the way through. And then, you do it again the next day. So
Well, you've grown a team like many of us, how many are on the team today? I don't know. We're always up and down or in and out, like we know. But you had that drive in you, but it's not always easy to find in others. And
yeah.
so if you brought agents into your world, how did you teach them? Or how did they learn that that was the secret? And did they do it at the level that you did?
So that's a good question. I definitely failed my way forward on the team building, like many of us have, I guess. So when I started to get really busy, I was selling between 30 and 40 a year on my own. And most of those were buyers. So it was incredibly time consuming. And so once I realized, okay, I'm going to hire, some buyer's agents, I kind of hired whoever showed up in my world and whoever was, needed help in the market center or, those kind of things. So definitely didn't uh, do any type of career visioning or recruit select back then. I definitely didn't vet them. It was just like, come on, let's have fun. We're going to sell houses. And actually, we were doing about 160 to 170 units, and all of my agents and my operations director walked out one day together to go really do their own thing. So I was left with no salespeople and 2 admin. So that was my first big aha of who you bring into your world and who you hire really, really matters. And actually, the 2 admin that stayed with me, one runs the real estate team now, and one runs the property management company. So they've stayed with me for now 9 and 10 years. But then as I started to rebuild, I did it very slow, and I was very strategic on who I was getting in partnership with, and really, yeah, who I was letting into my world. Because when that walks out in that type of manner, it's very eye-opening. So.
And I had kind of a breakdown, agents leave kind of vibe thing going on too. I feel like a lot of our career was kind of in sync together, Ginger. And I had to really go internal and investigate myself. So what lessons did you learn about you that you could control?
So definitely the getting into relationship and really learning about people before you go into business together. And that you're always growing your leadership lid. And so if you're not continuing to grow as a leader, then people aren't going to want to follow you. And so I think I wasn't consistently growing. I was still hustling houses and, focused running around there. But once you start to do the team, it's a different hat, and you really have to focus on what hat you're wearing. And then the third one is, I like to say that Keller Williams, or I assume any company that you're with, they need to sell their value to you, right? So every year our cap starts over, and we have to understand, what value am I getting for this partnership that I'm in? And that's also important to those people on our team. So if we're not reminding them of the value that we're bringing and the team is bringing to the table, and we're just going about our, business, we're not continuing to talk about business sources and systems and all of those things, then they're gonna forget about that, and they're gonna look for something else. So the value conversation became really important.
Well, then let's just kind of switch that value conversation over to your clients. I mean, you were helping 30 to 40 by yourself. That's a lot as a solo agent. And then grew into much larger numbers of families served. But people, just being consistent doesn't do it. Actually adding value and having great systems in place. So if you were helping educate someone today on how you did it, what were the specifics of value that you were sharing with their clients and the consumers in general?
Well, I definitely think I know there's been a lot of mix up and conversation around all the buyer agency and NAR, and North Carolina has always been a buyer agency state. So our team has always done a full consultation, spent quality time with someone before we're out in the car showing them. So we're showing all of our value in the beginning, so then they know what to expect, and they're experiencing that throughout the process. That's one way I think you lay your value, is to tell it and then show it. So that was a big one. Being really intentional on the relationships and forming those really solid relationships is how, the referral business comes. So just practicing, how else can I add value to their world outside of real estate? I was really intentional on that. Let's see, other values. And I do think that as you're building a business, every time that something goes wrong per se, then that's an opportunity. So I think you immediately stop, adjust your system, put guardrails in place so that that's not happening again. And I think sometimes we tend to get busy where we're like, oh, we'll fix that later. But I've always just like, stop right there. What are we changing? What are we doing? We cannot miss that again. The
Yeah.
system has to change. And every time you're doing that, it's getting better and better.
Yeah, always reviewing and resetting if needed. You mentioned referrals. That's a big thing for all of us, whether it's local referrals or agent referrals. I know you had a you have a big agent referral network, and that's a big part of your business. I know that's important to lots of agents these days. What would be your tips on growing an agent referral network?
I think you initially start with a solid 10. Like, who are your solid 10 agents that you have met that you really connected with, that if they're like, we're going to go on a trip, do you want to come? That would be the group that you would want to go with. I think you start with that 10, and then, as most people do, they are connected to other people like them. So they're going to introduce you to more people. So I don't think you look at it as there's going to be 10,000 people there and I need to meet them. I think you're just really intentional about a solid group that you feel connected to and build those relationships, because those relationships are going to expand. And a lot of our referrals, like I would say, if Jennie it's not coming from Jennie. So if someone posts, hey, I have somebody in Raleigh, then Jennie knows me and she would most likely recommend. So a lot of times it's coming from like a second or third layer. So sometimes the agent referral business becomes a little overwhelming, but if you just get into really good relationship with, a solid number, that the results are going to show up.
Do you have a system in place, or do you kind of just wing it?
Oh, we definitely have systems in place.
It's kind of a joke
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. I mean, we have, marketing plans, love touch plans for, agents when we receive referrals, when the referrals close. Yeah, it's all very systematic, just as we would do for our clients. We want to love on our clients, but I also want to love on our agents, because those are, a huge source of business. And I think you need to have three really strong pillars of your business, whatever those are. There's always three. And for us, agent referrals have been really great. So,
Yeah. Well, now that you have crushed it as a solo agent, you grew a team, and now you're onto this new opportunity. Was it always on your growth plan that you wanted to be in this leadership role? Or had you just kept showing up that they handpicked you because you were crushing it in your other areas?
yes. So this, no, this position was not on my radar. And yes, they handpicked me. And I realized that we were there. It just goes back to consistency. The consistency of leadership was not there. And without at least one consistent leader in a world, then it's just falling apart. And so I knew that I could provide that consistency and get the boat at least moving in the right direction after a couple of years of in and outs. And so it's definitely been a huge learning experience. And I mean, what better way to grow your leadership than to have an office of 200 agents? So,
Well, yeah, there you go. So what lessons have you learned since that new role that are still helping you? You still have a team. Yeah, you still lead others. So how is that helping you and helping your team succeed?
well, it's definitely time blocking and managing my schedule. I've gotten much better about that. Before I would schedule meetings for an hour, and now they're like 20 minutes. And if I'm not like, I can't meet myself to death. And I was feeling when I initially took this that we were meeting ourselves to death. So now if I can't move it forward and there's not going to be a specific outcome when we leave that meeting, I can't take it. With my team, I've always empowered my admin team to, you can figure it out. I trust you. If you make a mistake, it's going to be fine. The world's not going to end. I'm not going to yell at you. So I've done that, with our office leadership as well. Is I trust you to make this decision and to figure it out. And And I think leaders need to empower other leaders. So it's helped grow their leadership lids as well.
Oh, that's so good. I was just teaching a session on customer experience, and really an amazing customer experience starts with trust, that the consumers trust us to help them. So you just mentioned that, you trust them, so they also trust you and care about me, whether it's delivering a great customer experience for your clients or for the market center. So what are some tips you've learned over the years that you love, just lessons that you love sharing back with others when it comes to, this real estate gig? Like if you were talking to a 23-year-old Ginger today, what tips would you give her on how to succeed, maybe more efficiently, maybe not, as stressful as what you probably lived personally?
Well, I mean, if I could go back to 23, it would be all about the database, honestly. I heard this week, AI it's there. It is a thing. It's going to be more of a thing and more of a thing. And AI is created to provide leverage for us. And so if you don't have data to provide AI, then I don't know what happened. If you don't have data, then it has nothing to mine. So if I think back, and I was incredibly purposeful on my database since 23, I can't imagine like how much information and data my database would have. So that was kind of a huge aha. And data isn't just like I talked to them today or I called, but you're feeding your database with, their son just went to college and she mentioned this. And it's just really like you're feeding it information so that it can feed you information back. So that was like a big aha for me.
That is so smart, because we know that our business is all about our database, and the number of people and met relationships in our database will allow us to help more people. So I love that tip and reminder. Is there anything else that you can think of in all the lessons you've learned that when you talk to new agents that you're just like, man, you got to focus on this?
I think you got to go where the people are. If you don't have business, then they're not going to come to you, right? And so if you're like, for me, when I was driving to an hour here, then I was probably in an open house, working from an open house all day. It was just, that's where I was going to work that day. And I was going to have a all day open house, because if I'm here, like in this office, no one is going to find me.
Right.
uh, if they want to buy or sell real estate, right? But if I have a sign in the yard and I'm hosting an open house and my desk is there, then at least I have the potential of meeting the neighbors or meeting someone and growing my database. So I did a lot of just setting up open houses and sitting there. And this was in like foreclosure season. So I was sitting in like dingy old, yeah, like run, it was, yeah, with the alarm beeping and all that.
Yeah.
But you have to go and, you have to put yourself in places where they're going to find you, because they're not going to find you in your living room. They're not going to find you in your office. So that was a thing that I think that really helped.
I just think that has to be the exclamation point on this conversation, is you have to be where the people are. Our mutual friend, James Shaw, on his call this morning actually talked about that. So, you're doing what you think you should be doing, but you're not receiving the results that you are wanting. How would that just be your key point to people, is go where they are, or would you have some other tip?
I would go where they are. And that doesn't have to be the open house. Maybe that's not your thing, but you have to put yourself in places where you're going to build your database. And the open house is to build your database. It's not to sell the house. Like, yes, that's great if that happens. But if
Yeah.
you did an open house every day for 5 days and you added 25 new people, that's 100 a month. Like, that's better than just sitting in your office and cold calling or, twiddling your thumbs. I guess sometimes you're wondering what to do. So yeah, just go
That
where the
becomes
people are.
Yeah, that just goes back to the mathematical equation of, it's just a numbers game. The
All
numbers
in
game.
the same.
What did I not ask you that we want to wrap up on?
Um, oh gosh, that's a good question. What is my word of the year?
Ooh, there you go. What
So
is your
my
word of the year?
word of the year is focus. So If you're like me, using my book, we're going exactly what to say. If you're like me, then you tend to do five things at once, and you're talking, you're on your phone, you're writing stuff down, you're doing all the things. And so just the intentional focus this year of focusing on my husband when he's talking to me, focusing on my agents, and not trying to be all the things to everyone at the same time.
That is a really, really good reminder. And I think that it's the being present piece, especially with being a young mom with your kiddos. Like this is precious, precious time because before you know it,
They're
they'll
already big.
I know they're so cute and they're so big. Well, Ginger, I appreciate you for chatting with us today. We'll wrap
Thank
up here
you.
and I love you so much and I'll see you soon.